Hey, yo, ladies and gentlemen, fellas, we're back for what you hate to love, Thursday Night Football. Although we've had two great Thursday Night Football games, and now I get it, the potential and likely Davis Mills this week is gonna make you pound your fist. Listen, we got football. If you hear a single person on a piece of content, your friend, anybody, give them a schmack across the face, lightly, but a little bit hard, and tell them we got football right now. Quit your complaining, because in April, in May, in the dog days of summer of June and July, you're going to be wishing for football. You're going to be mock drafting your fantasy football leagues in fucking June, hoping for football. We've got football, and honestly, I like this slate. DraftKings likes it enough to put multiple hundreds of $1,000s up to first, and there's a bunch of props already out on Prize Picks in different markets, so let's get into it. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, fellas, you have 2 seconds of your time. If you enjoy this video, not now, but right now, please do consider hitting the subscribe button. So we're trying to build off of that great Monday Night Football that we had. We ended up hitting on 4 out of our 5 player props. We just missed by 3 yards, I believe it was, the over on DeAndre Swift's rushing yards. So we ended up hitting on 4 out of 5 on that, profited around $800 in the player prop market on Monday night, and the community profited oh so good, about $18,000 in profits based on the player prop market on Prize Picks. And then on DraftKings, it was a great day, profited $1,900, and I wish it was more. I would have hoped it was more, but I got some duds in there from Allen Lazard in a lot of my lineups. But yes, the 4 touchdown game from Aaron Jones. If you watched this pre-recorded video, it might have seemed that I didn't like Aaron Jones as much as I did at the end of the day. So you got to be in there for the live streams. You got to be in there on Patreon, because Quinton Cephas and Aaron Jones on Monday Night Football Showdown slate were the best leverage plays. What does that mean? They were lower owned. We don't know the exact ownership early in the day. As the day goes on, we get a better idea of ownership as more content and more data and information is fueled into my projections. And it was pretty obvious that Aaron Jones up top was the leverage captain play, and Quinton Cephas on the bottom was just the leverage play for all of those wide receivers as the most talented Lions wide receiver. What do we get? We get a combined, if you put him in the captain spot, 80 plus points out of the 2 of those guys. It was a lovely time. So let's double back. Let's double down. Let's go back to back down these showdown slates with some dollar Ruskies, and we'll start right here on the side of the Panthers. Now the Panthers come in as 7.5 point favorites in this one, and it's not by any means a great implied total, 43.5, because only 18 implied points for Houston, who lost Tyrod Taylor, who lost the rookie Nico Collins for probably the next month, and you're going to be getting to fill in for those guys. Chris Conley, who's fine but not as exciting as Nico Collins. Davis Mills, who's probably not fine or as exciting or stable as Tyrod Taylor, both on the ground. Davis Mills in college not coming with many rushing yards at all through his, I believe, 13 college starts. Davis Mills only had 81 total rushing yards, so it's not like we have a cheat code there. So it's not as exciting, but if we're putting our hand in the dirt, hey, if we're putting our hand in the dirt, shout out to big guys out there. You're putting your hand in the dirt, 2 hands in the dirt, not in your pants, you're putting 2 hands in the dirt. We're going to try and break down into this because we're going to be the ones with the most information. So up top, it's Christian McCaffrey, and the Christian McCaffrey usage is obviously, as advertised, obviously elite. He is my highest projected player on this slate by over 7 fantasy points. You really don't have to overthink this one, but you have to start to think about the price point. At $13,400, is he too restrictive? I don't think he's too restrictive for the flex. In the captain spot, it starts to become difficult, but they gifted us 2 value wide receivers on this slate. You always have kickers and defenses, but 2 strong starting wide receiver values. One who's the wide receiver 2 on his team, and one who's the wide receiver 3 with a massive red zone role on his team. So Christian McCaffrey for me early on is in play, not just in the flex, but in the captain spot, because of the fact that they gifted us 2 values and 1 extreme value at $1,600 on the slate. McCaffrey through 2 weeks already has 15 targets, already has 14 receptions. He has over 320 total yards, right? He has 59 touches on 60 opportunities, so he's just so efficient getting the ball. Expect 20 to 25 touches. I have him for over 24 fantasy points on the Patreon projections. You can check those out, link down below. Robbie Anderson is up next here. Robbie Anderson, I like his props this week. They're a little bit lower than DJ Moore's. DJ Moore looks like he'll be a more consistent piece of the offense, the way they're getting him involved. I think he's the more talented player, not to knock Robbie Anderson. He's great as well. Just DJ Moore, I think, is one of the more special wide receivers in terms of talent, and you can see that from the NFL draft combine and things along those lines coming out. But when we're talking about this specific showdown slate, do I think there's a $2,800 difference between Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore? No, I don't think there's a $2,800 difference. I have DJ Moore projected for less than 1 more point. He's projected for higher, but less than 1 more point. That's not worth $3,000 more dollars. So Robbie Anderson, at just a $7,800 price point, gives you this nice value play. And I know he's not cheap, but he gives you this nice value play compared to the other stud receivers like a $10,000 Brandon Cooks and $10,600 DJ Moore. Robbie Anderson should go out there and see 5 to 7 targets, if not more, in this game. He's second on the team with 68 routes run, ahead of a Christian McCaffrey, right? He's the wide receiver 2 on this team. And so far, look, he did not have the greatest week 2. He's only had 8 total targets, but he's had 4 catches, 95 yards, and a touchdown. A lot of that came on his 1 long touchdown pass week 1 against the Jets. But I hate to break it to you, but the Houston Texans secondary through 2 weeks is not the greatest. It's not awful. Like, their run defense is bad. Their tackling is bad. Their secondary, it's not good. It's not good, but it's not awful. It ranks right now like somewhere around middle of the pack to bottom third of the league. But these guys are going to be able to take advantage of that. Joe Brady is going to be able to take advantage of that. So Robbie Anderson stands out to me early on. We'll see. Again, these shows in the morning are to get you prepped. They're to give you all the information you possibly need, to give you as much as you want, the props, whatever it might be. But as always, the live streams before the games start, there's going to be some added context in terms of what the ownership is for GPPs. It turns guys that I didn't like as much, like Quinton Cephas, into guys who are my highest owned wide receivers on the slate, like Quinton Cephas. And if you're not familiar, that's from Monday Night Football. Terrace Marshall's up next, and he is one of these gifted value plays to us. Like, when there's Terrace Marshall on the slate, and then there's kickers and defenses, you play Terrace Marshall. It's as fucking simple as that. His ceiling is much higher. He has ran 47 routes so far. He has seen 9 targets through 2 games, 6 catches for 43 yards. And oh yeah, the massive rookie, the 6'4 freak at 230 pounds, he is going to be a big red zone target. I have Terrace Marshall right now projecting out for 7 to 8 fantasy points. That's more than the defense is. It's about the same as the kickers, but here's the big thing. Yeah, he's $200, $300 more expensive than these kickers, but he has a ceiling, right? Terrace Marshall's ceiling is a touchdown. It is 20-plus points. These kickers' ceiling, for the most part in this game, is like 10 to 12. So Marshall is firmly in play for me, and now we can start to get to some of these Houston guys here. And the 2 Houston guys that I think are going to be the best plays in terms, when you factor in the price point, right? Not just pure point projection. When you factor in the price point, I think it is going to be a Davis Mills, as you can see right here. And look, I get it. Davis Mills is not sexy, but every single market right now is disrespecting Davis Mills. He does not have mobile upside. He doesn't. He did not look good in college by any means. I don't really know why they drafted him. But yeah, 7.8 yards per attempt, 266 passing yards per game, and not the greatest of competition. Not great. Did not look fundamental. Has not looked fundamental in the preseason or this little snippet that we got last week of Davis Mills. And you can't knock the rookie too much, but 8 for 18, 102 yards. He had the touchdown and the pick. And here's the thing. You're going to get a full game. He has a short week, but he's going to get some time to prepare for this game. And he's got a good defense that he's going up against. So Davis Mills on paper, not a great spot. But when you factor in that he's an $8,400 quarterback on a showdown slate, it starts to allow you to do a lot of things. I mean, you're getting a for sure 30 to 40 potential pass attempts from a player. Normally, these bad types of quarterbacks are still $9,400 to $9,500. We're getting a massive discount here because of the narrative, and it's probably true, but just the narrative and assumption that he's bad. And we're getting an over exaggeration there in his price point. I personally believe that he's a subpar product. I personally believe that he didn't do much in college, especially to be drafted where he was compared to some of the other quarterbacks that are on the board for the Texans to take. That could be playing here right now at some other draft positions. But this is what we get. We get Davis Mills. And I have Davis Mills projected right now as the 3rd highest projected player on the slate. Even though he's not priced like the 3rd highest projected player on the slate, he's currently priced as the 4th price guy. So I think we're getting a little bit of baked in value here for Davis Mills. I expect to be a little bit above the field, and that doesn't mean by a lot. He's not going to be in 100% of my lineups or maybe even my main lineup, but I expect to be above the field. And the final guy who we gift here, who's a yes, at least a final guy, we have a bunch of other guys. I have 20 guys in a player pool. I think 20 players are actually going to be viable to play today as of right now. That's including kickers and defenses. So like 16 position players. They're all in here. All their projections, ranks, ownership, a bunch of other stuff, the Discord access. Check it all out down below on Patreon. Hey, we got like 780, 800 people now on Patreon. It's a record-setting year for us. Come and join the family. We will welcome you with open arms to the family. We'll give you a tough brotherly hug, right? A smack on the face, even for the lady fellas, but come on, join the family. So that last guy's name is Chris Conley, and this is where the value lies. Like last week, they attempted 28 passes, these Houston Texans quarterbacks, and 18 of them obviously were, like we just mentioned, Davis Mills, and 14 of those, a 15% target share. And if you take away takeaways, it might have been, or throwaways, it might have been higher, but at least a 50% target share for Brandon Cooks last week. He had 14 targets to the next closest guys, and there was a couple of them who had 2. That's insane. I don't think that holds up too much, especially against what looks like a fast and young, now after drafting 7 guys in the 2020 NFL draft, a fast and young, and Brian Burns is out there, and Derek Brown on the defensive line's looking good. These guys, this Panthers defense looks really good through 2 weeks, like borderline top 5 defense so far through 2 weeks. Believe that or not, compared to where they were 2 years ago. Everything, the run defense, the coverage, the tackling, the pressure, everything looks good for this defense right now. I think they'll be able to scheme it so that Brandon Cooks can maybe have a good game, but not see a 50+% target share, or at least not make it so that they're throwing there. So Chris Conley is going to step in for Nico Collins, the rookie, who was traded up for in the 3rd round with the 2nd most draft capital ever given up for a 3rd rounder. 3 draft picks just to get Collins, but now he's out for at least probably the next 3 to 4 weeks. So you get Chris Conley in here, the former Jacksonville Jaguar, who's fine. He has a ton of speed, and he's going to get opportunity. He ran 28 routes last week. He caught 1 ball for 13 yards on 2 targets, and that's probably his floor. Like him, scoring you 2 to 3 fantasy points in this game is probably his floor. We have in the slot banged up for them already Danny Amendola. Maybe they finally activate Anthony Miller, who's missed the first 2 games, but as the outside receiver, Chris Conley is going to be the for sure thing playing on the outside opposite Brandon Cooks. It's not going to be Andre Roberts. They're not going to motion somebody else out there. It's Chris Conley. Conley, who is a size and speed specimen, I do believe that he's going to come into this game and see probably more often than not 4 to 6 targets, probably more often than not catch 2 to 4 balls. A nice 3-catch, 30-yard day out of Chris Conley doesn't sound that great if you start him in your fantasy league, but for DFS at 1,600, it is fantastic. And as we slide into the remainder of all the players that are very playable, hey, cheers to you for the coffee right now in the morning where we're recording this bad boy. But we went 4 for 5 on the props on Monday Night Football, again, just by 3 yards the under. So if just missing that, he didn't get a carry the final quarter and a half because they ended up getting down by 2 to 3 scores. The damn Detroit Lions, that damn Mr. Jared Goff throwing weird picks. But if I pull up right now the sponsor of the program, it is what it has been right now, and that is Prize Picks. And I have no idea why you are not on. So far as a community, we're dominating. Since just Monday Night Football, we ended up winning $18,000 on Monday Night Football alone as a community. I was involved in that, taking home about $400, $500 on Prize Picks. On some other sites, ended up totaling about $800, $850 in total profit. We're just killing the prop game right now. If I add any more props, I usually put them on Twitter or in the Discord, So this is a $200 prop, meaning that I like it a good amount. So you can check it out right here. There's going to be more props to come out as time goes on, but the ones that we're getting right now are very soft. DJ Moore under 5.5 receptions. Based on his last game, people are going to want to flood to DJ Moore, but there's still Christian McCaffrey going to see 4 to 8 receptions. There's still 2 other receivers who are highly involved in this offense. Dan Arnold is running a good amount of routes. I have DJ Moore for about 4.5 receptions, so I take the under here as I like that one. Chris Conley over 5 fantasy points. I have Conley, who we just talked about, for about 9 to 9.5 fantasy points, almost double this. This is basically saying that Chris Conley will only have 2 catches for like 20 yards. I think as an outside receiver, he's going to have more than that. No, I'm not just looking at what happened, but only 2 targets for every other guy not named Brandon Cooks. You think that's going to happen all season long? You think Brandon Cooks is going to finish the season with a 50% target share, smashing the all-time record by 10%, by 15%? No, I don't think so. And then finally, here he is, Mr. Davis Mills. I don't like Davis Mills this week if you're trying to start him in your fantasy leagues. I like him because he's cheap in DFS, and the books right now are disrespecting this man a ton. Over 13 fantasy points for Davis Mills. If Davis Mills is able to throw just 1 touchdown this week, he should be able to hit this number. I have Davis Mills projected for over 16 fantasy points. I am on a massive different wavelength than this player prop right here. Give me the over there. You take these 3. You use the code SAL. It is very simple here. You use the code SAL. You will get your first bet for free, matched up to $100. So use the code SAL. It's free. F-R-E-E. It's a limited time offer. Maybe they're doing it for the first month of NFL. I don't know. They tell me when they tell me if they're changing things up. So use that code SAL, S-A-L. There's a link down below. You get your first bet for free up to $100. Take those ones. Tail those ones. We'll have more in the live stream, more on Twitter, whatever it is. Follow along and win the Dollaruskis. So now we get to a bunch of these maybes. Look, I like Sam Darnold. He has looked good. I put a tweet out and I put it up here that I'm concerned for this Panthers organization. Sam Darnold is going to look good. Sam Darnold is going to sign an extension with the Panthers. Joe Brady is going to leave for a head coaching job. Sam Darnold will probably not look as good. That's the concern here. Joe Brady is an offensive genius and he looks fantastic, not just at LSU, but what he's doing now with a full range of weapons with Christian McCaffrey healthy and having Terrace Marshall this year and Sam Darnold over Teddy Bridgewater. So Darnold looks fine, right? He's averaging 8 yards per attempt, 3 passing touchdowns, 1 rushing touchdown so far. He's going to have a solid matchup here where he will not face that much pass rush, which is even better now for Sam Darnold. So I do like this. They have an obviously decent implied team total of 25.5. It's just the price point at this point. Do I want to play Sam Darnold, who has been averaging about 21 fantasy points per game, who I only have projected for like 17? Do I want to play him if he scores 17 today? Or do I want to take my chance on guys who are actually cheaper like Brandon Cooks and DJ Moore and Robbie Anderson, who have a higher ceiling? I'm going to take those guys, especially when I'm trying to fit in Christian McCaffrey. So Darnold's kind of in this no man's land. I'll see if he becomes a leverage play later in the day, but at this point, it's tougher to get to him. If he gets a rushing touchdown, that's kind of the way he probably pays off. Next up, we have the team leader who's averaging almost 19 fantasy points per game, who has so far ran the most routes on this team at 72 and sees a team high 19 targets so far. He's had a stat line of 14 receptions, right? So he's averaging 7 per game, and that's why his receiving prop at 5.5 seems crazy. 7 per game is not going to hold up all season. I can tell you that right now. 14 receptions, 159 yards, and 1 touchdown through 2 games. DJ Moore is popping the fuck off. DJ Moore is very close to a yes for me. DJ Moore, if you can fit him in lineups with Christian McCaffrey, fan-fucking-tastic. But as of right now, with DJ Moore being $600 more expensive than Brandon Cooks and not going to see as much of a target share or priority share as Brandon Cooks, I slide to Brandon Cooks if I'm paying up for one of these expensive receivers because the assumption is we're playing Christian McCaffrey. So DJ Moore is firmly in play. He probably will move to a yes later in the day when I run my exposures and see that I'm getting 30 to 35% still, but as of right now, that's the way that I'm building. I'd prefer Brandon Cooks. I'd prefer the cheaper Robbie Anderson just because of the price point restrictions on Christian McCaffrey. The Panthers defense is on here, and they're probably more likely to become a no for me. They have a great matchup. They've been playing great. Number 5 in run defense, number 6 in pressure, number 5 in coverage so far to start the year. I mean, again, a borderline top 5 defense. They've been playing fantastic, but on Showdown slates, I never play this expensive of a defense in the captain spot. They're still implied for 18 projected points. It's only a 7-point total. It's not like it's a 12.5 point total, and you're getting like a 16-point projection from Houston here. At $6,200 for it to pay off for you, they basically need to hold their competitor to under 10 points or have 1 to 2 touchdowns, right? And I understand they could have 3 turnovers and 9 sacks. I get that as well. That's always a chase, but I think the more likely scenario is they get a pick 6 or something along those lines. $6,200, it's in play right now. My guess would be I don't get there as much because I normally don't play these expensive of defenses. Dan Arnold is on here. I like Dan Arnold. He's operating as the tight end number 1. His price point is a little bit higher, though. That's the concern. Like, at his price point at this point, just give me Terrace Marshall, and I have projected higher than him Chris Conley, who's like $3,000 less. So that creates kind of this weird range of the 5 to 6K range where you have the Panthers defense, where you have Dan Arnold in there, and also we'll talk about some of these Houston running backs who look god-awful. But it creates this, why would I go there when I can go down to Terrace Marshall, I can go down to Chris Conley, I could even go down to kickers if I really want to. Because so far, Dan Arnold has been productive. 5 catches, 61 yards, averaging about 5 to 6 fantasy points a game, and that's where I have him projected at, about 6 fantasy points for this one, 5 to 6 fantasy points, but it's just not going to get me there as much at 4,800 when there's other values on the slate. The kickers, as always, we can see them on the screen, or at least Zane Gonzalez is on the screen right now. We can see both of the kickers with Joey Sly at the bottom. They're in play. They're fine. Obviously, Joey Sly has a higher implied team total, but I usually don't play kickers as much when there's other viable value, like some kickers, like some wide receivers, and potentially some tight ends down here. And now we get to the man, Brandon Cooks, who's going to become more of a yes than a no for me as the slate goes on, because obviously the target share of damn near 50% last week. Obviously, he's already sporting like a 40% target share in the season. He leads this team with 65 routes and 21 targets now. Well, not just one, but 2 QBs are throwing him the ball, which speaks volumes to how much this guy's getting open. 14 catches, 210 yards, and a touchdown so far. We like him a lot. He's going to have more of a difficult matchup, I would say, here. I assume that they look at this and they say, who can hurt us on the Houston Texans? None of the 4 fucking running backs they're playing, not their tight ends, probably not Chris Conley or Danny Amendola. Oh yeah, it's Brandon Cooks. On a short week, I think they're going to say, let's just take away Brandon Cooks from the rookie. Will they be able to do that? I don't know. Will they play heavy zone? That's probably the way that you do it with 2 high safeties, but I don't think you're going to be too concerned about Davis Mills to play too high, so I do think there's going to be enough one-on-ones for Brandon Cooks. In the NFL, we do not double coverage, right? Unless it's Calvin Johnson or Andre Johnson on the goal line, or maybe a Julio Jones on the goal line, there's rarely ever double coverage because other NFL pros, no matter how great or bad they might seem, like Chris Conley, if you don't like him, or Danny Amendola, other NFL pros can win one-on-one matchups. That's as simple as it is. So Brandon Cooks is not going to be double-teamed. Brandon Cooks is still going to see targets. Brandon Cooks will still probably catch 6 to 10 balls in this game. So I like Brandon Cooks at $10,000. He's probably going to become a yes for me. I just have to see by the time we start building lineups, are these Brandon Cooks, Christian McCaffrey lineups actually viable with what's in the rest of that lineup? And now we get these terrible running backs from Houston. I mean, you have Mark Ingram. We had the under 39.5 rushing yards, and of course the guy runs for, or under 40.5 rushing yards. Of course the guy runs for 41 rushing yards. Just of course last week, right? But he's still clearly the workhorse back here. He has 40 rushing attempts, which is leading this team. 126 yards. Not that efficient at like 3 yards per carry right now, 3.1 yards per carry. And even more concerning at this price point of 6,600 is he only has 9 routes run, leading to 1 catch for -1 yards. So he's the clear workhorse on the ground, as David Johnson has only ran 9 times, and behind them, no runs for Rex Burkhead, and Mr. Phil Lindsay has only ran 13 times. So it's 40 rushing attempts to 22 for the rest of the running backs back there. But it's not like this he's getting every single touch. It's still those other guys getting involved. He's not seeing work on the ground. $6,600 is an egregious price point for a guy that I have projected out for less than double digits. It's an egregious price point. The only reason why Mark Ingram stays involved here and he stays in play on a showdown slate is because there is an ability for Mark Ingram to run the ball 10 times for 28 yards and 2 fucking touchdowns. Mark Ingram will be used around the goal line, especially with no Tyrod Taylor out there. He has a much more higher red zone upside share now when he's in on those plays over Philip Lindsay and David Johnson. So I do not like Mark Ingram. I don't think he runs for 50 yards. His player prop at 40.5, I'll probably remain to take the under. We'll see. I don't have it right now, but there's a chance that he has a 2-touchdown game, which on a showdown slate keeps him in play. David Johnson's on the slate. David Johnson looks terrible. He has 9 rushing attempts so far. He's being used as their satellite back, like they said in the preseason. David Johnson so far leads all the running backs with 28 routes run through 2 games. That's not great, 14 routes run per game, but they are targeting him, and they'll probably target him more now that the mobile Tyrod Taylor is not likely to play. He's had 5 catches, 40 yards, and a touchdown, 3 targets per game. So at $5,400, David Johnson right now looks actually like a worse play than Mark Ingram. He is closer to a no for me. I have been projecting out at $5,400 for less points than a much cheaper Chris Conley. For less points, honestly, the same amount of points as Jordan Akins, a tight end that we're going to talk about soon. For less points than the kickers and Terrace Marshall. The only reason why I keep him in play on a 1-game showdown slate is he is probably in this game going to see 2 to 4, if not 5 to 6 targets if he's in the game for the quick checkdowns for Davis Mills. If he has a 4-catch for 40-yard game, unfortunately, there's a chance that is going to be in play because there's 8 fantasy points right there, let alone what he does from a touchdown or his 5 to 6 rushing attempts. And now we'll close this one up. Texans defense, fine if you want to get there. I don't really have a stance on them. They've looked decent in coverage and not great in tackling or run defense and not the greatest in pressure. They're $3,000. Give me all the other value over them. They're not projecting out for anything really for me. But here's some interesting things. And now this is where we can maybe get different down here. Pharaoh Brown, everybody's going to play Pharaoh Brown over Jordan Akins this week. I'm not telling you it's the worst decision. I'm telling you that your first 2 weeks is going to skew you there. People are going to come in here and they're going to look at the fantasy points per game. 5.35 fantasy points per game for Pharaoh Brown and 1.35 for Jordan Akins. Oh my God, Pharaoh Brown is the number one tight end on this team. Based on the usage, no, he is not. The volume so far, the targets, yeah, sure. But based on the usage, no, he is not. Pharaoh Brown has ran 29 routes this year. Jordan Akins has ran 38. That is right. Jordan Akins has ran 9 more routes this season than him. Jordan Akins is definitely the tight end one on this team. The problem is Jordan Akins' 38 routes have only led to 4 targets. Well, Pharaoh Brown's have led to 6, but Pharaoh Brown's caught 4 of them. He had 1 big play. He has 4 catches, 67 yards, whereas the 4 targets for Jordan Akins have only led to 1 catch for 17 yards. So we're talking about a really small sample. And we're really just talking about week 1 where Pharaoh Brown had a couple of receptions and it looked good with Tyrod Taylor out there. Jordan Akins is going to run more routes. Jordan Akins overall is the better tight end than Pharaoh Brown. Pharaoh Brown had 1 big catch and really 2 decent plays in week 1 to make you think otherwise. But now you get a $400 discount on Jordan Akins. I assume Jordan Akins comes in at like 4% ownership to Pharaoh Brown's 10% ownership. We'll see what that looks like as we project out the ownership. You can check it out on Patreon. Both of these guys are in play for me, but as of right now, I have Jordan Akins projected out for more points than Pharaoh Brown, so I think that's a nice little leverage spot for you. Danny Amendola's on here. Track Danny Amendola's status. He got hurt in the last game. He only ended up ran 5 routes, so we have to track that. They do, on Mondays, they don't practice these teams if they're playing on Thursday Night Football. They do what is called a quote-unquote Monday Night Football estimate, meaning that if you were to practice that day, how would this player be ruled? And they ruled him out, so they ruled Danny Amendola out for that Monday practice. We'll track Tuesdays, we'll track Wednesdays as I'm recording this on Tuesday morning. And obviously, based on that news, that will change some things for us. So Danny Amendola, a slot receiver, would be a decent friend and a reliable guy for Davis Mills to throw to, right? In week 1, he ran 16 routes with Tyrod Taylor out there, and he caught all 5 of his targets, 34 yards and a touchdown. At $1,200, he would clearly be in play. He's going to project out for me. Like, there's just so much value here. Danny Amendola at $1,200 on most slates projecting for 5 fantasy points is the best play in the slate. But because Chris Conley is on the slate and Jordan Akins is there and Terrace Marshall is there, he's like the 3rd or 4th great value option, but they're all solid. That's why it's very easy to play Christian McCaffrey and build a couple studs in your lineup, and it hollows out that mid-range of the Mark Ingrams, David Johnsons, and Dan Arnolds. So Danny Amendola, based on what his practice and his status is as the week goes on, is either going to be in play or out of play. Now, if Danny Amendola is not in play, there's a guy here on the bottom of the screen that you can see, Anthony Miller. If Danny Amendola is not in play, Anthony Miller becomes an interesting name to monitor. Anthony Miller has been a healthy scratch. Anthony Miller was traded from the Bears so that later on the Packers can then go and get Randall Cobb, and we saw all that happen and play out. Anthony Miller at $1,000 has been inactive the first 2 games, basically saying that they like Danny Amendola more. But if Danny Amendola was to miss this game and Nico Collins is already out, you're going to see Anthony Miller likely get activated and probably make a start in the slot. All they have after that is like Andre Roberts, who I'm not that interested in, to be honest with you. He mainly plays special teams. Andre Roberts has only ran 17 routes through the first 2 weeks. He's a very old veteran out there. He's probably going to see in this game 1 to 2 targets. It's not that interesting. He's $600, so we'll see 1 to 2 targets. He's projecting out for like 2.5 fantasy points. Again, another value play that's in play who'll run 10 to 15 routes in this game. But I'd prefer Amendola or Anthony Miller, whichever player was starting in the slot. So if Anthony Miller, if we get news that he's activated and there's no Danny Amendola, I would expect Anthony Miller to probably run 12 to 20 routes out of the slot in this game. And when you're paired with a rookie quarterback who's going to throw to the slot quick, Anthony Miller, who is a talented player, that can be a $1,000 player catching you 4 balls. So keep an eye on that. And the rest of the players on the screen, you can see I'm not really invested in much of them or have interest. Rex Burkhead has no carries on the year. He's run a couple of routes, sure, and he's had a couple of receptions. At just $200, he does project out for me because I assume he's active. I assume he sees 1 to 2 targets. He does project out for 2 fantasy points at $200. If that's your cup of tea, there's some touchdown upside because he will be on the field. Brandon Zylstra is another guy who maybe picks up some unwanted ownership. This is the worst price on the slate. He's $4,600, this guy. Give me 0%. He only ran 9 routes and sees 3 targets so far in the season. But because he caught a touchdown last week on one of the only routes he's ran this year, people are liking him. He's operating as the wide receiver 4 on a team where he's behind Christian McCaffrey. He's pretty obviously at best the 6th option on this team. He's not running many routes. He's behind Terrace Marshall, yet he's more expensive than him. DraftKings fucked this up. Brandon Zylstra is the wide receiver 5 because of McCaffrey on this team. Probably wide receiver 6 behind Dan Arnold. He is, based on the routes run, and even behind Ian Thomas. But somehow he's $4,600. Zylstra should be on this slate no more than $1,000. I'm playing probably 0%. Chuba Hubbard's on here. Chuba Hubbard is not going to be activated at $3,200 for me with all the other value on this slate. 16 routes run have led to a couple of receptions, which is nice. 8 attempts have led to just 10 yards on the ground. I'm not interested. You're probably in this game going to get 4 to 6 touches or opportunities out of Chuba Hubbard at $3,200 when there's way better options out of all the cheaper guys that we just talked about. Give me those guys instead. Exact same analysis can happen for Ian Thomas. Ian Thomas is at least running 25 routes so far in the year. He's seen 4 targets, catching a couple of balls. $2,000, it's not the worst price point. I have Ian Thomas projected out for like 1.5 in this one, basically a reception. I'm not going to get there with all the other value. So that's where we're at. Those are the main priority options. We'll scroll back up to the yeses, and we will update this based on news as time comes out on Patreon and the projections. We'll obviously have the live stream before the game starts. I'll probably go live around 6 p.m. East Coast time for around an hour 15, answering your questions, updating on news, talking about leverage plays and ownership, trying to find those diamonds in the rough like Quentin Cephas, and the high-price leverage guys who aren't getting as much ownership because of where they're priced at, like Aaron Jones was for the Packers, and bang, it ended up working out for us. Before you go, be sure to hit the like button, all right? Be sure to hit the like button, the subscribe button as well, and the notification lets you know when we're going live. Support the sponsors of the program. You get that free bet up to $100. Here you go. Takes 2 seconds. Open up the browser, prizepicks.com. You click sign up. Bang. Takes literally 3 seconds. A username, email, all that type of stuff. You say, let's deposit, let's play in here. You use the code SAL. Bang. You get your first bet match up to $100. It is that motherfucking simple. If you're a Patreon, I'll see you in the Discord after this. Peace out, gang. I appreciate you all so much. Cheers. It's time to drink some coffee. Time to get this throat back to normal because it's sore as shit right now. See you in the next one.